All right, we'll go ahead and get started with the April 25th meeting of the Board of Waterworks Trustees. I've got several things on the agenda here today, but we'll get started with the consent agenda items. You see, have a list there of what's included, including the minutes of the March 28th, 2023 Board of Waterworks Trustee meeting, the minutes from the April 4th, 2023 Finance and Audit Committee meeting, and the minutes from the April 11th, 2023 Planning Committee meeting, financial statements, list of payments for March 2023, a summary of the CEO approved expenditures in excess of 20,000 and the next meeting date of May 23rd, 2023.
So moved.
Second. Is there anything to call out in?
Not unless someone has questions.
Okay. All in favor of approving the consent agenda? Aye. Any opposed? All right, moving on to item 2, the public comment period. We have identified here regional governance, but I know that we have quite a room filled here to participate in the public comment period. So we'll go ahead and get started. And I believe Adam Swihart is interested in speaking.
Podium? That'd be great.
Please.
And if any staff would like to address the board after Adam is done or while he's speaking, just please use the podium as well. Thanks.
You do it while I'm speaking, we may have a problem. Is there a time limit or just keep it reasonable?
Keep it reasonable.
Okay, I don't plan on being up here all day.
Okay.
So thanks for having me. I wasn't expecting a surprise party, but it's nice. First I want to introduce myself. My name is Adam Swihart. I am the union representative for Aspen Council 61. I represent Moines Waterworks, among many other locals. I'm new to Waterworks, but I'm not new to the process. I've been an Aspen union rep for about 15 years and seen Waterworks kind of develop and go by as one of our largest and strongest locals. What brings me here today is as soon as I took over as union rep, I started hearing concerns from employees. And the concerns were strong enough that they're looking at wanting action taken. The concerns are strong enough that the first thing they thought of was having a representative talk to the board because they don't know if the board knows what the problems are. And I understand from, years of experience, I'm sure we all do. Employees will complain about their job from time to time. I complain about my job from time to time. But the problem is there's a difference between venting to other coworkers and actually having bona fide issues on the job. And a lot of times, if you can get all the employees on the same page as to what the actual issues are, that's when we say where there's smoke, there's fire. If there's consistency in the concerns, there's probably some actual bona fide problems going on. Which saddens me because I've known this organization as what it is, which is an outstanding organization with outstanding employees that provides a critical service to the people of the city. Always been that way. I'll get right down to it. The employees that I represent at Des Moines Waterworks, there's a morale issue, a big one. The employees are the lifeblood of any business. We all know that. Dedicated employees who feel valued will walk through hell and back if they know that they're valued and the employee and the employer has their back. But morale problems, apathy problems, that's like a cancer. It just gets in and it grows. That's what I don't want to see. People feel like their concerns aren't being heard. People feel like when they're voicing their concerns to management or mid-level that they're being told, I hear you, but they don't see any resolution. They don't see any progress. They're starting to feel like rather than being employees and a member of the Waterworks family, they're starting to feel like numbers that punch a clock. For some place like this that, trust me, I've been to 2 meetings with just the people I represent. And I don't know that I've ever in my time as an ASPE representative seen a group of guys and gals that acts more like a family than just the guys and gals that I've met. So when they start to tell me that they feel like this at work, I know that there's an issue there. Right now, there's a lack of faith in leadership above them. There's a lack of faith because they feel like there's no communication. They feel like the communication is one way, that they bring concerns up and they don't get anything in return. And it's consistently the same issues. They don't believe that they're being heard. They don't believe their best interests are in mind when things happen to them, either on the job or personally. Now I understand, granted, I can't legislate, personalities. I can't, do a bargaining session to make people get along and everybody's going to like each other. And, management and the employees are not always going to agree. But I believe this is a bigger systematic problem than just not saying hi in the morning or something like that. I understand, just like everybody, just like all employers, there's a recruitment and a retention issue right now for many different reasons. There's a plethora, my favorite new word, of job opportunities right now that make more money than we're currently used to seeing in the job market for doing a variety of different things. You're competing a lot more with the private sector than you used to when it comes to wages and benefits. It's a changing new world. People don't get, attracted to public jobs, city, county, schools, in one waterworks type of jobs, state jobs. They don't get attracted to those like they used to anymore and just stay. They used to be the pinnacle of your employment, and that's just not the way it is anymore. But the problem is that the internal issues are causing the external issues to come into the waterworks. What I mean by that is there's a recruitment problem. You can't recruit people and get them in fast enough to take care of the ones that are leaving, and the ones that are leaving are the ones that a lot of times that I've been told are the ones that you recruited not too long ago. So there's a staffing issue, which accelerates the other issues. We can't retain the employees long enough to fill in gaps long enough to get experience. So what you have is you have people who go into positions and then they get either promoted or transferred and they get trained in those new positions. And then they immediately get thrown into situations where they're not comfortable training other staff. And they don't feel comfortable in their jobs to begin with, but they're training other staff and they feel like they're getting set up for failure. Because what happens if I make a mistake when I don't even realize what I'm doing right now? I'm new too. The training opportunities aren't there. Some of that's from short staff. Some of that's from, I don't know what else it could be, but some of it's from short staff, lack of planning. I don't know. But you've got guys out in the field who don't feel like they're being safe and they feel like they're being told to do things that aren't safe. That's an issue. You also have people that, from what I'm being told, I don't think they're being intentionally misled, but I think you have to realize what situation you're in when you do onboard people. People are being told unrealistic guidelines. They're being told we're only going to be on call so often in this job. What they don't realize is when they actually do get on and do get hired in, because they're short staffed, they're on call a lot more than they were told. And they're like, that's not what I signed up for. I can go somewhere else and get more money and not have to do as much work. Because they don't feel like it's worth it. We don't have that hook anymore. We don't have that advantage anymore. Safety was a huge issue that was brought up. What I'm being told is there was an accident a year and a half ago. Issues are brought up then, haven't been addressed to the satisfaction of the local and of the employees. There's equipment that's old and needs repair, that's under constant maintenance, built to the fact that it's not safe anymore. And it's not being replaced. I don't know what the reasoning for that is. And then the other half of that problem is they do have, when they do get new equipment. I heard a story the other day where they had a new truck that was too big for the place where they put the trucks, and they're having problems just logistically making it fit. So we need to have some change in the logistics. I'll give you an example of safety that kind of bothered me. The lower garage, this is a quote, the lower garage area where some of the employees keep their equipment like their Carhartts and their boots. The structure is crumbling. It's old. It's failing. These men and women keep their equipment underneath the service ramp where the trucks go into the garage. And the service ramp is too old and it can't take the weight anymore. And these guys go in underneath of this ramp to get their stuff, and they find crumbles of concrete from the ceilings falling down. You got equipment in the field that's not working properly. It's been asked to be addressed and it's not, which is, I can speak from experience. When your equipment doesn't work and you're standing in front of somebody you're trying to help, it's a little bit embarrassing. Tablet's not working, internet connection's not great. You're standing there trying to provide a service. Nothing's happening. Out of date maps, when these guys go out and try to map these areas, the mapping systems are outdated. It causes massive delays. When you're dealing with a group of people that, in this case, part of their job is to go out and service the public, some of them aren't seen in the greatest light, because sometimes people only see these folks when they're coming to turn their water off. So to give them another hurdle to hinder them doing their job is just, people don't want to go out and deal with it anymore. Des Moines Waterworks is a good job. It's a good place to work. What I'm getting from my guys and my girls is that it can be a lot better. They're trying to make it a lot better. They don't feel like they're being heard. I'm not here to point fingers, and I'm not here to get, personal and say, X, Y, and Z. I'm here to give you an overview of what I'm hearing the problems are, because I'm hearing it consistently from all my folks. These are the men and women that keep the water flowing. I mean, these are the men and women who are in the hole when it's negative 20 degrees outside, and there's water flowing and icing over Southwest 9th in December. I mean, these guys and girls deserve respect. They deserve fair wages and compensation. They deserve to be heard on the job. They take pride in their work. They take care of each other. I've seen that firsthand. All they're asking for is a working environment where they feel safe, where they feel valued, where they feel like their opinion matters. And I've seen it. Des Moines Waterworks can do better. And that's part of my job, is to help facilitate Des Moines Waterworks and the union having a better relationship. But I would look forward to both sides making effort in that area. So that's all I've got. And I appreciate everybody's time.
Thank you. We appreciate your time and being here. Do we have any other folks that are interested in speaking during this public comment period?
I'm not gonna be as good of a speaker as he was, but Brian Polpeter, started back in 91 as a laborer in pipelines. It's been a long time. I moved my way up through the ranks and ended up doing a job I absolutely loved. I didn't leave because I hate this place. My wife had other intentions for me, so this will be the last board meeting you'll ever see me at, because I'll be out in Utah from here on out. But it really, these last few years have been a struggle because of what I've been involved in the union since 1999 when we first came about. And we moved up through, and I was involved in their renegotiations. And I was the vice chair for 4 or 5 years, and then the chair for about 10 years. And, you know, if people think that it's fun to come to work and argue with management all the time, it's not. But, you know, that's where, you know, poor Bill and Dee and Lori, you know, that's where they're left because of all the things that are going on. And what I don't understand is we had a really good contract, you know, that was working for everybody. And now it's gone. We have nothing. And from my understanding, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but it, you know, it didn't need to be. It could all moved into the employee handbook and everything was fine. But now the way we hire people, we're back to the way it was. Back in 99, you know, I know before then, we had several votes to get the union in. It always failed. Well, this time it was unanimous. The company invited the union in. You know, they didn't just come in just because. I mean, if there weren't issues, then we wouldn't even be here. But, you know, and I've said it for the last 2 or 3 years, everything's going full circle. You know, we're going back to, you know, it just seems like we're going back to the way it used to be. And, you know, it's shameful because a lot of us put a lot of hard work into this, just like our contract. That's really no more. And to hear that, you know, we don't want to sit down, management and the union, and try to work this stuff out is shameful. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else interested in participating in the public comment period?
And I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts after hearing that. And then you're our guy that's supposed to deal with this, and they've said some things. I'd like to hear you before maybe we make some comments.
Specifically related to Brian's comments or the whole
Both of
thing?
them.
Yeah. Well, related to Adam's comments, a lot of the things that he shared we're aware of. We're aware of morale challenges. We're aware of equipment issues, computer issues, staffing issues. We're all painfully aware of the staffing issues. The fact that we've been shorthanded for a very long time, especially in water distribution. We're aware of all those things. I think that we're working on all of those things. I think that there may be a communication issue in terms of actions and progress getting back to the staff. Clearly, things aren't changing as quickly as they'd like, but we're working on those. And we have opportunity to work on those going forward, specifically related to the employee council. I know several of these things came up at the employee council. I had the opportunity to meet with a couple of folks following that. So I want people to understand we do hear. We want to move forward. We want this to be a great place to work. I think in that regard, we have the same goals. We want this to be a good place to work. For all of our folks, management and union. So don't give up on these things we're working on. Related to Brian's comments, you know, I think everyone is aware there were some pretty significant changes in the law. And there were things that had to come out of the contract. There were things that had to stay in, things that were called permissive, and things that were prohibited. We left everything in there that we could leave in there, mandatory. The things that could go either way, on the permissive, they call them. Prohibited things, we did move them into employee handbook. Not exactly in every case in the way that they were in the contract. But most of them were very much the way they were in the contract. And we didn't have a choice. We couldn't leave. They were prohibited by law. We waited for years we extended the contract when Bill was still here. That's to Bill's credit. I know Brian worked with him. We extended the contract for a period of time beyond the change in the law so that we wouldn't have to get to that point. But then when we got there, we took those things out. But we left a lot of things in there that we could have taken out, but we didn't. So I want everyone to be clear on that. We didn't strip the contract. I've heard that said, but that's just not true. Everything that's permissive, everything that we had the choice on, still in. We left it. I think I'll stop there. Graham.
I mean, I think you said it, we want to, I think it's important that we move forward. I think it's, I think I can speak for the board, when I say that it's important to me, it's important to us to have a healthy and balanced workplace environment where there is, where we're not having morale issues, where we're not having safety issues. And it is concerning to me that this room is filled again in only a few short months. From when I first sat in this chair, and talk about pressure, within my first 4 months here. But we really do, we need to get to a place, where we have that healthy and balanced workplace environment. And we also have to work together to figure out some feasible solutions. You know, I don't think that we as a board are really able to prescribe any feasible solutions as a policy making board. And because we aren't in the trenches as you all are, and really familiar with the specifics of the concerns and the intimate familiarity of the variables that have to be considered to come up with feasible solutions. But we are hearing you. And I know that's something that was brought up, that you've heard that we hear you, but there's not anything happening. And so what I did hear today were some specifics about equipment, computers, and other items. I made some notes on here, and I appreciate that. And I know the last time in January when Rick Islander was here, we talked about that employee council and the opportunity for folks to get together. And I would really like to see that employee council, and maybe other board members have some thoughts on this, to come up with those specific concerns, and prioritize them, and start working together, so we're all seeing and hearing and improving that communication, to understand what some possible solutions are, because it's important to me, as I'm sitting here, not to have that family culture, and not to have continued stress when folks enter the workplace on both sides. And so I mean, does that make sense for that? Is that the purpose of that committee? Does that make sense for that committee to be the place where specific items are brought and solutions can be discussed amongst supervisors and staff? Or how does that work from both sides? Is that a functioning place for a process?
I will offer that I think it's a place where concerns can be shared. I don't know that it's a place where every concern can be worked out. I don't know that they have all of the right people. Really, these things need to be worked out within the departments. And if they can't be worked out within the departments, I think the council is a place that those things can go. And if they can't be worked out there, then they can come to me. But these things need to be worked out in the departments. That's the best place. That's where you have the knowledge, you have the people who do the work and they know what they need and they know what the challenges are. And you have the supervisors who have the ability to make the decisions and move these things forward. The council is an opportunity to share concerns that aren't being addressed, is the way I would see it, Andrew.
I look at it, the thing that really concerns me is the issues about safety. The safety is absolutely fundamental. To this organization, to all organizations that provide a public service. It's important that our workers be safe. This is the second time. I mean, I understand that there are some really specific challenges, and I don't think it's probably just us. I think the whole thing coming out of the pandemic and I don't know where all those people went that were working before and are working now. That everybody's having a shortage, and when you have a shortage, then people look around and there's churn, and people who had been there maybe leave, and then you don't have the kind of mentoring maybe that you had in the past, and it's extremely disruptive. And I'm not saying that's an excuse, not an excuse when something is as fundamental as safety is, but I don't know, we have got to put more emphasis on that, more emphasis on training. To make sure that we're not putting people in unsafe situations. People need to take training really seriously when they get that training. I worked for a public utility for 5 years. I worked in the utility business all my life on the regulatory side. Sometimes I saw people didn't take that training seriously. It's like, oh yeah, I have to sit down and go through this and I'll do it. So we all have an obligation to do that. I'm not making excuses for anybody, but whether or not renewed emphasis on training, maybe we need to have testing after we have training to make sure people are getting those skills. I don't know, but we really do need to focus there because I don't want anybody to get hurt on this job.
When Mr. Islander came to speak with what, February? January meeting. I was concerned. I mean, it was the first time the head of ASME had come into Waterworks, at least in recent memory, if not ever, to speak about serious issues. And that followed a serious accident, which I think was kind of the breaking point for a lot of this stuff. And I was hopeful after Mr. Islander was here that we were at Moines going to implement some processes to begin to address some of these concerns. He talked about the council and others. And I think there has been, my understanding, there has been some work on training and safety issues and improving those things. And I don't think anybody can snap their fingers and those things happen overnight, but it was my hope that those issues were being addressed. And what I expressed at that meeting when Mr. Islander was here was that, as tragic, if that's the word, astounding, shocking, that particular accident was, there was an opportunity there. There was an opportunity for management in the union to begin working together, perhaps like we haven't been working together in recent years, and to use that bad situation as an opportunity. The fact that Mr. Swihart is here today and we have a room full of people here today tells me we've made no progress. And that means there's a failure on every single one of us. There's a failure, obviously, at this board. There's a failure of communications in the organization. I guess we all own a piece of that. Ted, you're the CEO and general manager. You're the guy we all look to solve these problems. And while we all own part of the failure, the solution can only start with you. And you understand this. I mean, you and I had a conversation yesterday about this. We've talked about it before. this should be, I think it is, but this should be a huge wake up call for you. I mean, 2 times in 4 months, we've got a packed room of employees who are saying that morale's bad and they're not being listened to. And those are the things. I'll re-quote Mr. Swire, where there's smoke, there's fire. And I think that while I think this has always been on your agenda, moving some of these things up to the top of your agenda should happen today, because as Andrea points out, our board has a limited role here. I mean, we're a policy setting board. It's not our job to run the utility. It's not our job to know what truck fits into the bay and what truck doesn't fit into the bay. That's you and your staff's job. And maybe that's, maybe that's a true accusation or not, but you get my point. I mean, our job is to set policy and to make sure that things are operating. I mean, ultimately, our job is to hire the CEO and general manager and make sure that that person is doing the job. This, again, to restate what I said earlier, this should be a wake-up call for all of us. Something is not functioning here. And if employees tell me they are not safe, they do not feel safe, they do not feel appreciated, they do not feel like their opinions are heard, that means something's severely broken. And I can't, as a board member, discharge my duty and go back to ratepayers and other people and say, we've done all we could and we can't address these complaints, and maybe these are unfounded complaints or maybe they're not. What I continue to hope for, and Bill, you and I have talked about it, Dee, we've talked about it, making sure that we have specifics we can work on. And the safety issue is one of them. I think it's one we all can agree on, that safety is issue, and thinking about those training programs and making sure that the people that are in the field, the people who are actually receiving these trainings, have a say in how the trainings are conducted. The only way we know they fail is if the people who received them say, well, that didn't work for us and it's not working here. And so the union has to have a seat at that table. I don't know how many times I have said in my role as board member for the last 12 years, how proud I am to be a part of an organization that has a union like AFSCME, because it makes us better. But today I'm worried we're not making each other better, which again, to restate, we're failing that. The fact that all of you have showed up at this meeting means you're concerned, you're scared. I don't know what the right word is. We need to harness that energy to something productive. I like Mr. Swihart. I don't want to see him come back to our meeting ever again. I want him to go to other people's meetings.
Right.
I want him to, what I want him to do, and I think we talked yesterday, Adam. I mean, I think, I want to make sure that you're helping us engage the union in appropriate ways and making sure that they're sitting at the table for all of these discussions. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know how to do that. I've never been in your shoes. I've never been in Ted's shoes. I don't know how to do that. All I can tell you is it's got to be done. So you guys need to guide us on how to do that. And I think Dee, Bill, Lori, you guys know that, I'm willing to meet with you and talk to you and figure this out. I know my colleagues would do the same. Let's figure it out so that we don't have, this is one of these meetings I remember, it's a long story, but we have to unfold our arms and get to work. And right now we're all standing there with our arms folded because we're frustrated and it's time to get to work. And Ted, that burden comes to you. And I think you understand it, and I'm not wagging my finger at you, but this is job number 1 for you, I believe.
There was a comment that Mr. Swire made that you touched on, that I think I want the rest of the board to speak if they have something to say, but I just wanted to highlight this as I was sitting there listening to you. We're a people organization, and it really was emphasizing something that was said, that our employees are the face of Waterworks. They're out in the field. They are having the relationships and with our customers. And it's important to ensure that energy that they're carrying while they're out there, it reflects positive on Waterworks and the place where they are, because it's going to reflect positive on the rest of us as well. So I just want to keep that in mind too, as we continue to figure out how we get beyond this to the next, to the solutions. How do we move forward? How do we get through this? Sue, Alec, do you have?
I'm gonna give just a slightly different perspective. You had made the statement that concerns have not been heard. And the 2 or 3 items that you did bring up, I've heard about it, and I've heard about it from our CEO. I've heard about the old equipment. I've heard plans for how many backhoes can we buy versus this, and maybe we need to modify our budget and do this instead. So those things have been coming to us. We've approved budget as a board, so I'm going to take some responsibility on this and say, when we approve a budget, our CEO and his leadership has to move that money around to wherever the need is the greatest. And if it, I have heard Ted be very understanding and say, you know, we may need to buy more of these because we looked into renting this, and by renting it within 4 years, I mean, the whole analysis had been done. So I think it's a little short-sighted for you to say the concerns aren't being heard. They are being heard. You may not be seeing any progress, but we are asking questions and hearing about the process that they're going through. So I just want everyone to know it. If I'm hearing that, and that's coming from the CEO, that has worked its way up. On the technology, we've heard all about the technology. We've heard about the issues. We know what is now being tested and what they're going to try to use. So we've heard about that too. Do we have a solution that we can flip the switch? No, but I think it's on a fast track to see what we can do. And I'm going to say it's not just Ted. I mean, we saw a safety presentation. He kind of pushed back and said, what more can you do? And some of the things that we heard in that safety presentation is that some people aren't coming to the presentations. So my question to safety was, well, then if they're not coming, is that being shared with their supervisor and put in some kind of a performance review? Do you remember this? You're kind of, okay. Because I you're saying, I want to make sure you know. I mean, we need to not only offer the safety training, but make sure people are there for it. And if they're not, there could be consequences. And I think everyone would agree with that. So, and HR, I mean, we've had some conversations with Doug. Some of these conversations, I think, you know, we do have an HR director, and I hope he takes a more active role. So that basically addresses your comments. I do want to say, Brian, it's been a pleasure working with you. I remember you sitting at my kitchen table in 2005 and again in 6. I mean, kind of scary when a couple of union people just show up at your home. So, but thank you for your service. Thank you for always approaching us with wanting to get things done. Yes.
I don't want to get into hurt. When you say that you're hearing things.
Yes.
I don't have any doubts anymore. Concerned when I brought up in the presentation was that you're moving the concerns up the chain, not getting a response back down the chain. So that's part of the frustration of the communication is working one way. We understand it's going up and that kind of thing, but maybe not a mechanism to keep the employees a little bit more informed on, yeah, we got that budget around, or we're gonna buy some trucks, we're looking into this, or, you know, we heard you is great, but we heard you, and this is what we're gonna do about it. And if you can't do anything about it, then that too. But communication is key. And my point was, it's they feel like for calls, they feel like communication is working one way. So if you're hearing it, great. And if you're actively doing things about it, great. that the employees aren't hearing, that was kind of my, they're not getting the follow. So, like, I'm not gonna give you an argument, I'm trying to say what I'm being.
No, understood. I think our chairwoman gave an avenue for that through this council. I think she made an excellent recommendation. I heard you say two things. The concerns aren't being heard, and that was what I was addressing. They are being heard. Then you said, and we're not seeing any progress. So yes, we can bridge that communication with what our chairwoman said. But it's gotta be two ways.
Absolutely, I think the council, I've been perfect, because I knew the local, I think the council be a great mechanism. I've always wanted to talk to relations, especially in the union reg. But I think what the chair said was well taken, asking both sides of the table, asking give and take, asking ideas, going back and forth, not problems, solutions, and then there has to be follow-up on both sides, somebody had to be responsible. Back with a solution or, some kind of follow-up on both sides to the issue. I think that's what frustration lies is at that level where it's not that feeling of follow. So, yeah, great.
You pointed to HR.
Yes,
Here's my thing. And I've never been at a where I've been a change. My child, orphan, I've never been there. My daughter had a seizure 2 weeks ago. I was put in a situation yesterday. And I know about it. It's been figured out, but it took way too long to figure out. I went to HR. I spoke to Rochelle about it. I have to be in Iowa City on Friday because they're gonna do a bunch of tests on me. I'm out of vacation time and I was put in a spot where I was gonna have to choose my daughter. I got news for you. I would go out there and choose my daughter all day long. That should never be put into a spot where an employee has to choose work or their child. That's where the frustration is. That's where the morale is. And you guys keep saying you hear us, Nobody's hearing us. You can hear us all you want, but you're not listening and there's no response there. That's all I got to say about it.
I'm very sorry. Thanks.
So, his deal is also. Probably the distribution, but. It is a after hours, 6 p.m. established and sober. He has to do that around vacation, because every single day we come in, we pay potentially for 16 hours. That's 24, which is a safety issue, that we do something active. It's happening. So. We have to burn probably 40 hours a year, we can have hours, like the requirements, basically. Just so I can guarantee I'm not going to read them. After this chip. So, you all need that, that's not a problem. Not being a problem. Another safety issue. I've been out 40 hours. Go home, get called back in an hour. Go back. It's a major safety issue. That's fine.
explain to me, safety issue that hasn't been addressed in your experience. You can take a guy who's never worked at night, give him all the training in the world, spend a half a year in a training setting. But he's not gonna know that he's the guy who's got 5 to 10 years. That's the guy that keeps everybody safe. And these are the people that are beating out of our department. There's all of our experiences. Everybody looks at the other jobs here that have similar pay grades. That's a lot easier than I do. I'm in that boat. My boat is, I actually love it. But I cannot see myself being in a professional training loop next 10 years. Or every 2 months, I got new guys. I can't retain it. That has to stop. That's why that's my first. I'm looking out of this department because I can't. I'm one of the most experienced people we have left. Which to me is almost ridiculous. I've only got like 5 years. How can I be one of the most experienced people in waterworks in this distribution? Like top 5. That's crazy. I mean, luckily I have experience in the 4 years, but the more of these experienced people that we lose to other departments and other companies, then the more unsafe we get in the field. Because I can't walk away from my job on some days
Cause I've got a whole crew that's only been there for a year. They don't know. That's how that incident happened last year. We had a bunch of guys there. I had to walk away from. We had a bunch of guys there that didn't know. That's how that happened. We can't let our experienced employees lead out of this department and keep things together. It's falling apart. We have to find a way to stem it. See what it is, it's like that, there needs to be some action. Happens a lot.
Tell me, Brian, Adam, anybody else, I mean, you don't sit here and say we hear each other, right? That doesn't mean anything. How do we take action on these things?
Right.
I know D and Bill and Lori, you meet with Ted on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. I don't know. You have a regular meeting. There's this talk of this employee council. I'm fearing those things aren't working or aren't good enough. Before you walk out of here today, is there anything you can tell us that you would like to hear us do or take action on? I mean, is there a way to give the employee council more teeth? Is there a way to address that gentleman's concern about his family and leave time? I mean, I don't, again, forgive me for my ignorance. I know there's certain things that that are in the bargaining process, and that may not be one of them. So how do we solve that problem? Maybe you don't have those answers for me today, but that's what I'm looking. D, you and I have talked about it. Bill, you and I have talked about it. How do we get to the point where, all right, here are real specific problems, and come up with ideas about how to get them addressed. And I pointed my finger at Ted before because he's the guy that's supposed to solve them, and he is. But how do we solve them? And if you have any ideas, I want to hear it. What I don't want to hear is we walk out of this meeting and, well, Graham said the same words he always said, and patted us on the head and sent us out of the meeting. No, it's time to actually do something. And so help me, help you, help all of us do this together.
Well, and so along those lines, I guess I want to understand, so safety is a primary concern. Personally, I'm also concerned about morale issues because I think morale feeds into everything, right? And so that is very concerning to me, and that is not something that you can just flip a switch, put in a new policy, a new procedure, a new committee, or a new something to make that problem go away. But it is at the root of everything. And the employee retention, the experience, keeping people here, the safety issues, feeling valued, all of it. So as you're thinking, and to answer Ted's question, how do we move forward and get out of this place and realizing that it is not going to be a switch to be flipped, but that we all feel like progress is being made. And I'll stop there. Sorry.
We talked about relationships today with Ted. Relationships with some of the directors around here are real good. Ted knows they're not. Don't Ted about it. Just pointing at that distribution guys are all here. They're saying a guy hasn't been trained on something, but he's training a new guy. And we hear that frequently over there in that area. And we know they're lacking over there. But I know myself and Dee and Lori want to work on a relationship. And we've lost it. And we want to make it better. We want to make it better with the guys and gals that work here. And we know right now there's a long road to go. We talked to Ted about several issues. A lot of the issues we talked to Ted about have now been brought up. I'll sit down with any of the board members. And I do want to say thank you to the board members. I know it's a thankless job sometimes. I do appreciate what you do. Try to lead all the meetings. But I'll sit down with anybody anytime to talk to them about any issues or problems we have. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. So and me and Dee and Lori hear them all. So in which what we got voted in to do, we don't have no problem listening. Some of our meetings with Ted recently haven't been bad. So we want to make it better. We want to move forward.
And piggyback off that, I don't want the order to get their grandkids subject. I do. But I don't want the board or anybody else to think that the union representative just shows up, everything is messed up. Here to push the disturb by wondering. My job is to help into help facilitate better relations, better working relationships between management and the union. That whole thing, the union, that's what my priority is. So that's all get in the room with some people who can actually make tough decisions. Actually have authority to push a button here and there. We're all for that. We don't want to see it just have meetings just to have meetings. That's that kind of pacifies some people at certain times. Not saying that was their intent is, but that's not what this intent here is. We're past that. So at any point, I'm going to be in a room, filling DR, President of National Iowa, Mike hopefully I know who he is. We're going to get in the room, do whatever we have to try to reach resolution. As long as it's real conversations, with real thoughts and ideas brought to the table and the ability within that room to make things happen. If it's a departmental issue, then let's get the department in there and get it figured out. If it's an overall issue, let's get that done. If it's a policy issue, let's have somebody in the board in the room with the ability to make a change. If that's what I'm hearing a lot of was the department issue over here, it's the department issue over here. To the department heads and supervisors in the room and figure it out. Because I'm not the guy that comes along just to complain, I'm the guy that comes along and likes to help. I can get solutions. I work with that. The job is very easy. They represent them until they're happy. They have a long road ahead of you. They're on this one. So, let's do it. Let's get in the room and get something done. But I want to get something done in that room.
So, Mr. Swire, you bring up, I think, a path forward here. I mean, I'm concerned when Bill tells me that he has unproductive meetings with Ted, and he feels like they're not moving forward. And what I'm really worried about is if we're not there yet, we're getting toward a point where there's a broken relationship where union leadership can't work with the management here. And I don't think we're there yet, but we're standing on the edge. So you mentioned, a willingness from in your position to put together, maybe a process for us to help improve those relationships. It seems like some of these things we have to get over past grievances that we can't fix today and start focusing on those things that we can fix. And if you're willing to help mend some of those relationships by being in the room or having some of the experts on your team being on the room, I for one am for that. And I think Bill would support that. I think Ted would support that too. But I think that it does sound like we need not a mediator because we're not at that standpoint. But what you said is appropriate. Help us repair those conversations, because communication was at the top of your list. Communication's what I hear from Bill. Communication's what I hear from Brian.
Well, and communications, Ted also mentioned.
And Ted did mention.
Maybe that's what you're pointing to.
Right.
With there being some communication issues, so we know that is something that needs further investigation and solutions.
So if that's something that you're willing to offer, I think we'll take you up on that. And because I think that is a concrete step forward. And from that, we can figure out how to solve some of these other things. D, anybody else? What else? I mean, when you walk out of this meeting, is there something else that you want from us today? Or you'd like to hear from us?
I want to say something about Andrews.
Please.
It's wearing on me. Morale comes from this too. There's an injury. Turnaround time is not good. It's not good at all. We have an individual who's been out months. And he's told, I don't know if this goes back to the doctor who we're visiting, but this guy should have been fixed. He just wants to get back to work. Nobody wants to get hurt. I now pray and perceive how these people are getting fixed that don't get hurt. Because I don't know when I'm gonna get fixed. I don't know when I'm gonna get back.
I don't know if we need to look into policies, doctors or what, but we need to get going on this. There's several people that have been hurt. They might not even turn it in, they might go to their own doctor. Get it fixed on the side. And we shouldn't do that. Especially, I mean, nobody's gonna lie to you. If you're hurt at work, we're gonna be honest. And I'm visually seeing this my morale is going down. I have no confidence in if I get hurt. I don't know what else to say. I just want to make sure you guys are aware of this, because I haven't heard anything about this back from you. I just want to make sure. I know Ted has heard about this. I want to make sure you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah,
So-
so I like to chime in once, and obviously I'm the newest board member. For those of you I haven't met, this is my 6th board meeting and 2nd time having everyone here. So as far as I know, it's a quarterly event, but it doesn't sound like we're in a different situation than we have been. So I guess if anything, I'm listening maybe more with just an outsider's perspective, because I don't have the inherited history of, I don't know anything about water still, don't tell anyone, but I'm still learning. And I guess as I hear and listen to what we want to task Ted to do, what I hear is a staff that is stretched thin. And that is the root cause of a lot of safety and morale and a lot of these issues, because people are just forced to do too much, too little. And I understand, I run a business. And I was just on a call walking over here dealing with what we're gonna do for staffing for tonight. So I know that it's not even, the waterworks is just the world that we're in. But I think at the end of the day, that's a big cause of all of this, that you guys are doing what you can, because we citizens of Des Moines and Polk County don't care. They want their water to come on and tap on. And so you guys are committed to that, and we appreciate that, we feel that. So as we think about what the resolution and what we can be doing about this, we gotta think about the resources that we have, how can we grow and sustain them? And then when we do have them, how are we best deploying them and making sure that they're working efficiently? Doing things that are only critical to the mission right now and making sure that, because that's just what I hear, that's what I feel in the room. And that's I agree with Graham was saying this, it does sound like we really need to elevate this, focus on it, think about it. And I think that would be one of the areas that I would really look at. These guys are through, watching good, educated, safety-minded people leaving. That causes the issues just come out from there. So I understand, and I know as a board, as you said, like we said, the broader scope of how we operate within that, the Ted's forced to operate within that as well. So we have our say in it as well, and our culpability. But we want to fix it, and we want to make sure that I want to make sure I'm new to this, and I don't want to be all of a sudden, having people call, didn't you just join this board? What's going on and everything? So I appreciate that you guys are here in person. I mean, that means a lot, and I hope that my observation and request as board members, we do take a look at this and figure out what we can do to make sure that we are working towards a better future.
Ted, do you have any other thoughts or?
Not at this time.
Did some of the other board members have any other thoughts? Any other? Yes.
So I've been here for week days. And the guys are not about safety. It really falls back to retention. Because if I'm a new guy, and I'm doing everything that they ask me to do. He's got a one. And he's not able to do his job successfully as much as me. So I had safety oversight the last company. If you can't keep the new guy through his career, what's gonna happen to him? And he's never gonna learn safety. He's never gonna learn that he's gonna teach the next time. So I've been with all the crews, and I trust them to fly. And that you got. That's the only safety that you need, but they're not able to teach me and do their job because they're not enough. You can't watch 6 guys, and I'll be that guy, but it's tough because if I'm gone, they got to teach next time. They got to start over the day. That's just 3 weeks. And to see that, you know, you can say safety, safety, safety. But if you don't retain that guy, it's safe. It starts all over. And it can always be safe.
Right.
So it kind of boils down to keep the guy.
Right.
And teach him that what he's taught, he can teach someone else.
I appreciate that. I don't want to cut anybody else off if there is interest to speak.
Preface this by saying, I don't know how complicated your guys' job is when it comes to annual budgetary restrictions. I know for a lot of the issues we face, we get a calendar year budget. The year changes as it goes around. We have equipment fail, go bad, computers need updated issues. And we put that up, hey, new trucks, new equipment, new stuff. We need it, and the pushback is always, there's no money in the budget. It just seems kind of silly. We get told, hey, don't beat your head against the wall for a whole year, because this year there's no money, maybe next year. That's kind of the cycle where trucks and equipment, computers, updates, just little simple things that always get, hey, sorry, no budget. I don't know how, again, I don't know how that's solved, but that seems to be something that kind of circles around an awful lot. There's never really a budget for anything.
Thank you.
I got something to say before we end this thing. Question for Ted is, what are you doing to keep the guys here in district? Like Mike said, everyone leaves this department. I'm an installer. We're the shortest staff position in all of this department, and we're doing nothing to keep guys in this position. You get in this position, everybody just looks to move on to another department or another spot because nobody cares about us. We get told we're gonna get you guys, nothing happens, or we try to push people who aren't ready for this position up to this position, and that doesn't help us because we're training on top of doing our job, like he said. So what is Waterworks doing to keep guys here from me going somewhere else? Because I have a license, I can go somewhere else. I don't want to, but I'm almost to the point where Waterworks isn't doing anything else for me. So what is Waterworks doing?
You know, I push back a little bit on the we don't care thing. You know, I hate to hear that. Clearly, that's the way you feel. We'll work on that, but the staffing thing is tough. We've been working on it for a year. You know, how do we bring experienced people in here? And we've done some things, you know, in terms of advertising, trying to look harder, trying to attract people who are experienced to come here. But without success.
But what are you guys doing to keep? That's, I know we need people, but what are you doing to keep?
What do you think would be,
I think a big thing for a lot of guys in our department is waiting. Because, I mean, you can go a lot of places and maybe for many years and have to deal with a lot less issues than we have to. You guys are hiring some operators. We just increased the first step. I think maybe you know, like you stress so much on the team. You're not a team on the crazy. Yeah, it's not a team at all.
you know, we have to make those decisions carefully. And, you know, the operators made a good case that, hey, you're hiring journeyman operators and asking them to start at the bottom. When you expect them to have 6,000 hours of service, you expect them to do the big test, you expect them to do all these things. You're hiring journeymen. You're going to need to do something to attract and retain. So we try to address that.
I mean, I can tell you, I mean, I've been the whole bed installer, we don't labor. That thing. You don't want me to have any experience with your buying me to get something. So it's my.
I'm not sure I'm following your perspective there, but I think that What we can do, we don't have to start people at the bottom if they have experience. We can start them higher up. We need to find people with experience. We want to keep. The concept of raising pay grades, and I talked to Swain and Manning, and that was, we talked equipment. We talked staff, we talked about a lot of different things. It's a great conversation. They gave me a nice list of things that need to be addressed, or they gave me ideas. Raising everybody's pay grade in pipelines. That while that may attract and retain people in pipelines, it creates a lot of questions across the rest of the company too. If we raise every pay grade in pipelines, what about grounds? I've had conversations with them about their pay. We just need to do it carefully. We want our people to be well paid. We want them to be paid fairly and equitably. But on the other side of that, we have a responsibility to our customers to pay the appropriate wage, pay a fair and equitable wage. I think that there's a real question on how we're going to keep people in water distribution. I think that's a real legitimate question. Because we have seen in the last couple of years, people moving out of that group. We're gonna have to do something, or else we're not gonna have people in the group. What's the right thing? I can't sit right here and tell you what the right thing is today. People don't like being on call. They don't like staying after. Nobody likes coming to work at 7 in the morning and not knowing whether you're going home at 3 or 11. We've talked about having to burn a half an hour vacation. That's been a thing for the 33 years that I've been here. If you wanted to get off, you had to burn an hour vacation. Nobody ever liked it. It's to some extent, it's the job. But it's a new day. What can we do differently to make it better? So that people don't want to leave? Is it just pay? Or is it a second shift crew, so you don't have to stay late? Is it another crew so that there's more share the fun, more people? I don't know. But we need to work through all those things. They're not easy decisions. They're not fast decisions because they're long lasting and widely impactful decisions.
Go back to the wages of the operators.
Yeah.
You're talking about the operator.
Yeah.
And two compared out about the top scale, the other one started at the lower.
Okay.
So you're an operator, you have the skill. Being an installer, you have to have a great license. Late. None of those guys got set up. They're actually more short staffed than operators.
Right.
They do much more of this demanding job than operators. Why was they bumped up with 2 operators?
Jeremy, I think we did. You're getting into details now that wasn't necessarily involved in, but I think that they did allow laborers to move into that installer role without a grade 2 license to try to provide some relief there. So they did move some of them up. Is that not true?
That's a dangerous move. People don't have the experience they need to do that. You're talking about people that have been here maybe a year.
Yeah.
But 2 years, somewhere now, I'm not sure he's been here a year. If he'll be the first one to tell you that he doesn't have, he has the experience for that position. You push him into that position, you put him in a dangerous place. There's to put other people in dangerous places. Send this guy out to a game. He doesn't really understand what's going on. We're short staffed. That's all we've got. He's not just putting himself in jeopardy, he's putting other people. Look at us.
I understand that. So what are you suggesting, Jeremy?
Well,
That's just, I don't know. I don't have a magic on it either.
It-
But we'll have to look at it. Okay, I don't think it's being looked at. I think that's, I don't think it's being looked at seriously. Nobody likes that. I understand. This side, maybe you don't like it, budget's straight paid. I get. Can't just pay people, whatever. At the same time, I think over the last 2 years, there's a problem. Our department, you can go. I've talked, I know a bunch of people, like, they can go and be a top rank $32 an hour. They don't need a great. They're not gonna do it till like the pay scales and that side for a job like that is extreme. I can drop down now, be a top, just go buy a car, think pretty close to it.
I'm gonna,
Right, I don't think any of those guys are not involved. I mean, I don't think. It's hard if you don't do it, to understand construction on your line. That being on call every 6 weeks things. That's a week of your life that you really can't plan anything, but you find somebody to come. But if you get that, keep it something, then you just have to leave. You guys
always say the on-call. It's not literally just the on-call. It's the fact that you're on a fan all month, a whole month, then stay right from the, you're not doing anything, you're staying. Next week, you're on call, you're staying, you're on standby, you're staying. It's an endless, you're always here. You live.
I truly do appreciate hearing these, because while we do hear, as Sue mentioned, your these concerns, and that there is a that distribution has been struggling for the past few years. And I don't want to cut you off. I don't mean to cut you off, because I think it is important for the board to really feel how frustrating this is, and truly understand all of the aspects that go into the cycle and the frustration, and hearing all of the roadblocks that you guys are hitting. But I'm thinking, and I'm open to be told I'm wrong, that this might be the starting point for Mr. Swihart coming in within this department and investigating these very things that you guys are talking about, and how we can find a solution there, and talk through them all in a setting where the appropriate people are there, and the data is there, the budgets are there, and we can really dive in and look at, and when I say we, I mean you all, and supervisors, and whoever else are the appropriate people to be there. And maybe that's a priority of where we need to start to move forward. Is that fair? Again, don't want to cut this off, because I think it's good to hear all of this, so we know exactly the extent of what's going on. But is there any other comments or questions from the board?
What's the next step, Jen? Are you gonna talk to Mr. Swihart tomorrow? Or?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know what the next step is. I don't know if I can lay it out. I'm certainly only gonna talk to Adam.
Okay, all right, that's right.
We can talk.
All right. And I'm sure we will be kept updated on, yes,
Let
sorry.
me ask for one other thing. The gentleman in the back, could someone please address his concern about what's going on in his life on Friday? I mean, it sounds to me like he needs a little more support from our HR. Maybe I'm wrong, but could someone follow up with him just on what his options are, please?
And I think we got there. It just took a bumpy road to get there. Is that fair?
Yeah, we got there,
You
but
did.
it was to the point where I was about to walk out. Because like I said, I shouldn't have the change. Nobody should ever stop. And I'll be straight with you guys. My wife would be up the car. Because I should never have to deal with them. I should never have to deal with it. The fact that the CSI that was head of HR was gone on some convention or something, this is what I get. The fact that you got an HR person that's standing right there, she needs to sign. You can't tell me there's nobody in this building that can sign. And I was coming over after I got off at 3 o'clock yesterday to basically find out what I was gonna do. And she was bolting out the door because I called her before I got off at 3 because I can't clock out that gate. So I get in trouble. So I called her, she didn't answer. It just so happened, I pulled in the parking lot, I saw her walking out. All I did was get out of the car and go, Rochelle, have you heard anything? Her first words was, Jason, I'll get back to you when I get back to you. That is not okay. And then I pushed the issue, I'm like, no, you need to do your job and figure something out for you. Because I'm in a crunch here. I've got to make a tell, I've got stuff, I've got to get squared away. I should never have to, like I said, be put in that spot where I have to change the board one more time.
But it's been resolved. Is that correct? It's just the process and getting there was
Right.
not. Urgent.
If you're willing, first of all, take care of your daughter. Don't worry about this. Go take care of your daughter. That's the most important thing. When you come back and you have her healthy and that if you're willing, I'd like you to help us solve this problem. This shouldn't happen to somebody else. You were in there. And if you're willing to help us figure out how to solve this problem. But tomorrow and the rest of the week, you take care of your daughter.
Part of the reason I'm saying is that like this group. We're all one.
We want you to stay. We want you to stay. Yep.
This is like a second family. Because we spend more time with each other than our actual family. If we're out on main breaks.
As awful as your experience was yesterday, let's turn it around and make sure it doesn't happen again. But go take care of your daughter.
It's these little things that we talk about, it's the morale issue.
Absolutely.
It's by no means an isolated event. There's been stuff like that in our HR department for years. Frustrations,
I
not
agree.
getting service that you want, or feedback quickly.
Thank you.
Thank you for me.
Thank you all for being here. Yep.
Take a couple minutes.
Yeah, we'll take a Yes, so just closing out the public comment session to discuss regional governance.
You're all aware that the second draft of the regional 2080 agreement was distributed to all of our potential regional partners, and we're beginning to have conversations with them and get questions and a little bit of feedback. We've also begun work on what I would call the operational agreement that would be signed between any producing members and Central Iowa Waterworks. We had a pretty solid draft of that. We kind of set it aside so that we could focus on getting the second draft out and getting the clock ticking, if you will, for communities to give us feedback. So we're still waiting. We've got meetings scheduled actually with both of the rural systems. Amy and I are on the calendar to go to both Warren and Xenia board meetings to discuss potential membership with them. And that's kind of where we are, waiting for comment and working on the operating agreement.
You've been to Warren and you've been to Xenia. And you've addressed both boards in the past, am I correct?
Nah, we went to a Warren board meeting. Xenia was staff and board chair,
Okay,
but this time it will be there, in both cases will be the actual board.
well, that's good. I mean, it'll be interesting because it's your second time talking to the Warren board, so that helps me know where you are in the process.
Any other questions or information to share on regional governance?
Diana and I continue to have our mini micro meetings about every 10 days, I would say, with Jody and John. That would be West Des Moines and Urbandale. And Jody has a list that he has been making rounds to various entities. And I think it's all a concerted, uniform approach, and here's what we've done and here's what we've worked through. And I think it's moving along very positively. Would you agree, Diana?
Yeah, I think we're where we need to be. We need to be setting some deadlines and get some stuff now wrapped
How
up.
long have we been saying that?
But we've got the second draft out there. I mean, this is the document that people are gonna have to sign. We have the document. They have a date. Get back to us. May 12th should.
Check put that in my calendar.
Yeah, put it in your.
All right. Okay, well then moving on into item 3, action items. Item 3A, the 2023 employee health insurance renewal. Why I can't make it to it, I apologize. What's this is so the recommended, or so Ted, tell us more.
Well, I'd be happy.
Yeah.
The board will recall that in January of 2021, Des Moines Waterworks entered an agreement with the IGHCP Trust, which is the Iowa Governmental Health Care Plan Trust, to provide health insurance for our employees. We did that because we were seeing quite a bit of volatility in terms of annual percentage increases in our health insurance. We were able to work with the trust, provide the same 3 plans that we were providing historically to our employees, that being basically a 0 deductible plan, kind of a standard deductible plan, which is $500 single, $1,000 family, and then a high deductible plan with a health savings account. And I am pleased to report that for the 3rd year in a row, we're seeing a single-digit % increase in our health insurance premiums, 7% increase. There's quite a bit of information here in the packet that shows exactly what Waterworks contribution would be versus employee contribution for all 3 of those plans. The other thing I did want to note was that Recently, we also worked with the board to approve an ongoing 90%, 10% cost share split that is based on what I call the standard deductible plan. So we look at the premiums for the standard deductible plan for single and family. Waterworks contribution to employee health insurance is 90% of that. Each of those figures, and the employees percent pays 10%. Historically, we had done more of a dollar amount increase each year, which in some cases resulted in Waterworks paying the entire cost of employee health care. In some cases, it resulted, especially if you had large percentage increases, it resulted in huge increases for the employees. This 90-10 has really balanced that out. It's been very effective. Our plan is to continue to do that going forward. And until such time as there's reason to change. I just wanted to make the board aware that this would be continuing at the 90-10 split, 7% increase. And we would ask the board's approval of moving forward with IGHCP again.
So the recommended action and the board required action, I'm looking for a motion to, a motion to approve the employee health insurance provider and rates for the period of July 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion or conversations about this? I just wanted to point out that this is one of the things that I do remember us going through, really working hard to do the research to figure out how to get us to a good place because of skyrocketing health insurance premiums and concerns for our staff. So I am glad to see that this is continuing to move forward in a positive manner with that 90-20 and the minimal increase at 7%. No other comments? I will call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Item 3B. And I can't make my thing, is the acceptance of the 2022 tank painting, the Tenny standpipe. So Ted, tell us about this.
Andrea, in February of 2022, the board awarded a contract for painting the Tenny standpipe, which is the standpipe in the parking lot at Merle Hay Mall. That work is complete. There were a couple of change orders as part of that work. Some modifications to the roof platform and ladder were added. We also added painting of a storage building at the Wilchinski standpipe site. To the contract. While we had the contractor here, we thought it would be a good opportunity to get them over there to paint that building. And the second change order was replacing the overflow weir box, which we discovered once we got in the tanks. Poor condition. So the work is complete, and we would recommend that the board accept the 2022 tank painting Tenny standpipe project.
Great. So I'm looking for a motion to accept the 2022 tank painting Tenny standpipe project completed by GNL Tank Sandblasting and Coatings LLC in the amount of $906,500.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, item 3C is the request authorization for CEO and general manager to execute change order number 1 to the 2022 water service line repairs contract.
Andrea, this is actually an exciting step towards beginning the replacement of lead water service lines here in the city of Moines. We have decided that we will replace lead service lines or offer to replace lead service lines that we discover on our water main replacement programs. The first one of which we're going to hopefully award here momentarily. But what we've decided to do here is actually, instead of having the water main contractor replace lead service lines and get in the houses, build meter settings and do things that they don't normally do, we want to change order lead service line replacements into our service line repairs contract. It's a contract that we issue every year. We do hundreds of service line repairs with a plumbing contractor who's used to doing this. They occasionally have to replace the service line all the way to the house. They're experienced with this. They know what they're doing. And there's a fairly simple way for us to create a demarcation between what the water main contractor is doing, and then let this contractor come in and do what they're good at. So we're anticipating potentially 17 of these on this first project, the first group of projects this year. It's a total of just 78,000 in terms of a change order, which we wouldn't have had to bring to the board, but we wanted to bring it here for your knowledge and awareness in case we discover more of them than we're expecting. We end up going over $100,000. We don't want to come and get permission after the fact. So we're getting the permission up front with the understanding that if we run into more of these, we will obviously continue to replace them. That could be a little bit more cost, but the initial change order is for what we anticipate will be 17 potential water service transfers.
So I need a motion to authorize the CEO and general manager to execute change order number 1 to the 2022 water service line repairs contract in the amount of $78,200.
So moved.
Second.
So does that mean to repair those lines? If we're estimating 78,200 in 17 potential services, that's less than $5,000 a piece.
Right, but be clear, we are replacing the water main on these streets. We have a new water main. We already have the street open. And then as part of the water main contract, we always lay copper from the water main to the stop box, put a new stop box in. So that $4,600 is starting at the stop box and getting it to the house. So it's about half the work.
Okay,
So we're still thinking our $10,000 ballpark for one of these that we just do from scratch is probably right. But this is just to come on site, connect to the new stop box that's just been installed on the water main contract and run in and set a meter inside that.
I see. Okay. Any other questions?
Just, I don't know, where in the city is this?
Well, if we look at item F, item F, it's going to be on this contract. And we are on, I know it's listed in here. Southwest 9th Street, 43rd Street, and Southwest 12th Street. So there are 3 locations, and I believe that the lead service lines are expected to be on 43rd. Let's see, is that right? Yeah. It's 43rd Street.
So there's a motion and a second to authorize the CEO and general manager to execute change order number 1. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Item 3 D, thank you. Bouncing all over here trying to look at maps. Request authorization for the CEO and general manager to execute change order number 2 to the city of Des Moines Western Ingersoll Run Sewer Separation Phase 3 project.
Andrea, we'd already come to the board requesting permission to reimburse the city for a fairly significant amount of water main on this project. A couple of things have happened. One, we found 3 additional conflicts that were not anticipated at the time that we did the original authorization. And number 2, there are some changes in the pipe joint type that resulted in actually in a deduct in the contract, but we wanted to bring it back to the board because it's so close to $100,000. Change order number 2 in the amount of $93,005 is a lump sum for the additional work that we believe we're going to need to do in that project, and we would like authorization from the board to reimburse the city for that work.
So I need a motion to authorize the CEO and general manager to execute change order number 2 to the city of Des Moines Western Ingersoll Run Sewer Separation Phase 3 project in the amount of $93,005.
Second.
Any questions? All right, all in favor?
I,
Any opposed? Right, item 3E is the Moffett East Feeder Main valve vault. This
And this
is
is a
a
public
public hearing.
Yeah.
So, I will, just clarify again that, we're opening the public hearing for the 2023 Des Moines Water Main Replacement, Contract 1. And, opening the public hearing for comments from,
This is the valve vault. That's this item.
you know what, because I'm still at the map to figure out where the lead service lines are. All right, here we go. Thank you. So good thing we announced that agenda item. The agenda item is for the Moffett East Feeder Main valve vault. And I'm going ahead and open the public hearing for comments from the public concerning the project's firm contract plans and specification
And estimated cost.
and estimated cost. Do we have any?
I don't see any public and we didn't receive any comments written or oral from the public before the meeting.
Okay. With no public comments, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. And now we're looking at am I just supposed to read that entire thing?
Yeah.
Okay, that the board finds that the project reflects appropriate coordination of existing infrastructure and that there are no suitable facilities available for rent and sharing in lieu of the project.
That is correct. And there is a certification attached from Mike Kernan to that effect.
Okay, so now I need a motion to adopt a form contract plan specifications and estimated cost.
so moved.
And Ted, can you provide an analysis of the bids? And share your recommendations?
We'll vote on the first thing.
Okay, we'll go ahead and vote on the adoption of form of contract plans and specifications and estimated cost. Does this need to be a roll? No, okay, all in favor?
I,
Opposed? Okay, now Ted.
Thank you, Andrea. This is, first of all, I do want to mention that this is a project that we coordinated with West Des Moines Waterworks and the city of West Des Moines to construct facilities that they need to ensure adequate capacity to some new development in the West Des Moines system. This throttling valve and vault will be paid for primarily by West Des Moines Waterworks and the city of West Des Moines. We did bid the project, got 3 bids. They're good, tight bids. This is a project that we had designed by an outside consultant. Their estimate prior to the bidding was $850,000. You can see that the bids came in closer to 1.2 million. The bids are grouped pretty tightly. We think they're good bids. We have communicated with West Des Moines Waterworks and the city of West Des Moines. They're comfortable with moving forward with the award. We did update our memorandum of understanding with West Des Moines and the city of West Des Moines to reflect that they will pay up not more than 1.4 million total for the project, and that would make Des Moines Waterworks responsible for any costs beyond that. Primarily, that will be some of our labor and things like that, but we've negotiated with that with them and believe that that reflects appropriately in terms of their benefit project versus our benefit project. So we're recommending that the board authorize award of the contract based on those repayment terms from West.
Okay. So now I'm seeking a motion to approve CEO and general manager's recommendation awarding the contract to WRH Inc. in the amount of $1,280,000 $100,000 for the base bid and authorize the chairperson and the CEO and the general manager to execute the contract.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Item 3F. Really excited about this one apparently. 2023 Des Moines Water Main Replacement Contract 1.
Andrea, this is our first water main replacement contract for the year. We've already talked a little bit. We're gonna have work on 43rd Street, Southwest 12th Street, and Southwest 9th Street. We got 3 bids for this project again, grouped pretty tightly together. The engineer's estimate was 1.7, 1.8 million. The low bid is 2.1 million. A little bit of difference there, but given the tight grouping of the bids, the construction environment that we're in, certainly recommend that the board award, but this is a public hearing as well.
All right, so I will go ahead and open the public hearing and receive comments from the public regarding the form of the contract, plans and specifications and estimated cost. Do we have any public here?
See public here, and we haven't received any comments.
Okay. With no public comments, then I will close the public hearing. And now I am looking for a motion for the adoption of form of contract plans and specifications and estimated costs.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Right. So it is my understanding that the board finds that the project reflects appropriate coordination of the existing infrastructure and that there are no suitable facilities available for rent or sharing in lieu of the project.
That is true.
Okay. So I will go ahead and am I seeking another motion?
Yes.
Yep, and seek a motion to approve the project's form of contract plans and specification and cost estimate.
We did that.
You did that. You do another one.
Oh, sorry,
So now we
thank you.
can do one below it. There you go.
I would seek a motion to approve the CEO and general manager's recommendation awarding contract to Corel Contracting Inc. in the amount of $2,145,227 and authorize the chairperson and CEO and general manager to execute the contract.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Any opposed? Okay, item 3G is the 2023, or it's authorizing, it's a request for authorization for the CEO and general manager to execute agreement for the 2023 Floor Drive median maintenance.
Andrea, Des Moines Waterworks has been performing maintenance activities on the planters and the Fluor Drive median since 2000. After 20 years of doing that work with our own staff, we made the decision to contract that work for the first time in 2020. That particular contract allowed for 2 one-year extensions into 21 and 22 based on appropriate completion of the work, which we did do. This year, we have rebid the maintenance, the landscape maintenance, the Fluor Drive medians. We received 2 bids. The low bid is from I'll Do It LLC, which is the same contractor who's been doing it for the last 3 years, and also the contractor that does our remote facility mowing. They've done a good job for us, and we would recommend that the board authorize execution of an agreement with I'll Do It for that maintenance.
So I need a motion to authorize the CEO and general manager to execute an independent contractor agreement with I'll Do It LLC in the amount of $128,800 for the 2023 Flora Drive median maintenance project.
So moved.
Second.
And just to be clear, this is a 1-year contract with 2 automatic renewals, right?
Allows for automatic renewal, yes.
Okay.
It's a one-year contract. You said it exactly.
How much did this bid go up from what our previous contract was?
I don't know that off the top of my head, Mike. Do you know? Is Jess still here? Yeah. She's
It's
hiding.
fluctuated so much throughout the years because the maintenance out there has changed. So when we initially bid it, I think the initial bid was around 70,000. But we had a really significantly reduced amount of medians because of all the construction. going on.
Sure.
So as that's progressed south and as we've replanted some of the medians, the maintenance has gone down. So it has changed in much greater.
Okay,
And it's increased obviously. in prices.
great. Okay, that makes sense.
I ask a question about this. Talked about safety. Maintenance on those medians was a huge issue a few years ago. And not that we're trying to move the ball, but has this group been? I mean, I know that they're doing it at different hours. Have we had any incidences? I mean, I think as the contractor, we're also concerned with safety.
So they do follow the guidelines set forth by the city of Des Moines. We follow their traffic control maps that we used as grounds. Still follow those same procedures. They do major work on the weekends, like the summer planting, summer annual install tulips, the fall display. They are out there a lot during the week doing, they do weekly inspections and they do water a portion of the tips, which is where the animals are. So they are out there during the week. But they are required to be in there in the regulated hours set forth by the city, which is around 8:30 southbound. So they do, when they are out there, they have a 3-foot taper. They're considered more of a moving work zone because they're there for shorter periods, but they try to reduce their impact as much as possible. But with the construction, it does get congested. And they work around where the repainting is going on, work around those medians that are affected. But they have not had any major accidents. There have been accidents near where they're working, but not.
But there was irrigation installed in the new medians, right?
Yes, as it progresses, irrigation is installed. So right now we have irrigation median starting here. Median 1 is at the north end here, all the way to median 11, which is the contest. And they are progressing.
Thank you.
So I have a motion and a second to authorize the CEO and general manager to execute an independent contractor agreement with I'll Do It LLC in the amount of $128,825 for the 2023 Fleur Drive median maintenance project. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, item 3H. This is to award the 2023 through 2028 master service agreements for roof design, building and architectural structure, surveying, water distribution engineering, source water engineering, mechanical process and plumbing design, electrical and controls and water production engineering services.
That's a mouthful.
Yes, it is.
We've talked about this a number of times with the board in terms of updating, I would call it, some of the ways that we retain professional services or we obtain professional services for various functions that were just listed there as Andrea read the title. The engineering group, specifically Lindsay, has done a nice job of developing requests for qualifications, sending them out to a number of consultants, I guess I would call them. There were 28 consultants who responded to that request for qualifications. Most of them submitted proposals for more than one of the master service agreements. That the team reviewed all of those proposals. They identified who they believed were most qualified in each case. You can see in the chart below, if you look down there, you can see as an example for roof design that they believe that Benchmark Incorporated Envision Architecture were the two most qualified roof designers. So they're recommending that we enter master service agreements with those two firms, and that would allow us the opportunity to simply go to them when we need a roof design for one of our buildings. And we'll already have their qualifications, their costs, their hourly costs. We'll negotiate a scope with them, and it really will streamline these kinds of projects for us going forward. And so I won't read them all, but we're recommending that the board authorize staff to execute 5-year master service agreements with the consultants shown in the table above for the disciplines identified in the first column.
Thank you. So I need a motion to authorize the CEO and general manager to execute 5-year master service agreements as presented.
So
Second.
Any questions or comments? Okay, all in favor?
aye.
Any opposed? Are we at our information items?
Yep.
That's correct.
All right, so we'll start with the board committee reports and finance and audit committee.
That's me.
That's
So we had our meeting. I'm gonna say it was EPA guidelines and rules for cybersecurity update, and I'm gonna say a lot of it went over my head. I don't have a whole lot of commentary on it. Obviously, as we've discussed, cybersecurity is an important part of being a public water utility. There are new guidelines that are being implemented. The whole process is early on. This is kind of making sure that all our water production facilities across the country are safe and secure. Our team is on it. And the mechanisms of how that's going to be done, I believe is still, and how those assessments are done. There's internal, external, some of that is still being decided, but so we're prepared to go forth with whatever we need to do to make sure. I spoke to everyone, and Diane was on there, but not out for she had any comments, but I trust in our team and they know a lot more. This is an area that I rarely speak to. So, and then Amy had her CFO comments with the audit that is currently ongoing. Wrapping up now. Okay. So I'm sure they're excited about that. And then the new implementation of software, and I didn't write down the names. Okay, yep, and also progressing. So it was things are moving type.
Thank you. That's a great update. I'm glad to hear that. Planning committee.
It was a great meeting. We had a presentation from Mr. Isabel Smith. And it was regarding the water treatment plant study that was completed in early 2022. It's my understanding this has already been presented in some form to the CIWW Technical Advisory Committee, so that's good. They all know what's going on, but we did ask for that to be shared with all of the board. The slides that were presented, I know Michelle did. So it was excellent. And then from Mr. Danley, we heard about a new field training specialist position, particularly working with operational staff and water distribution, water production. And then we also had some details about RAGBRAI, which leads us to the recommendation. Ted and I are going to be on the partnership trip on the date of what would be the next planning meeting. So we thought there might be a broad-based interest from all the board members. And so I think Michelle's been working on rescheduling that at a different time. And when is that?
It'll be the following Tuesday, May 16th at noon. It's still remote, still fun.
So it's like a luncheon.
Bring your own lunch.
Bring your own lunch.
When we were talking to, when Andrea and I were visiting with Ted, we did suggest too that we should have someone from the foundation on the call, because I think some of our questions. Perfect.
Be there along with insurance.
Perfect.
Putting all that together right now.
Thank you very much. So that was it.
Okay. The Stowe Foundation.
After years of moving ahead slowly, I feel like things are happening quickly at the Stowe Foundation. That's a good thing. Sue, you mentioned the partnership trip, and if I mentioned this last time, I didn't mean for repeating, but I want to make sure I cover this. I had an excellent meeting with Jay Byers a few weeks ago, and we discussed plans for the water curia outdoor classroom here at Waterworks Park and the ongoing education efforts. He was very excited about this project. He has included materials that he asked us to provide as part of the partnership trip materials. As something exciting that's going on in Des Moines. They are also going to help us identify grant opportunities with federal agencies having to do with education and water education around the water curia in the Citizens Water Academy. That's a very positive outcome. We have a meeting, we being the Stowe Foundation have a meeting tomorrow that has been orchestrated by the partnership of parties who could be interested in participating in this. The Icon Water Trails project is one of the participants at that table, but then there's other businesses and others in the community that are around that table to hear about what we're thinking about and to begin to participate in that. It was more than I could have anticipated and a lot more than I asked for from the partnership when we had this meeting. So it's very helpful, and Jay's Byers' personal excitement about it was has carried a lot of weight. So there's that. I did mention to you that we had signed, I think I did, that we had signed a contract with the School of Education at Drake to begin developing curriculum, which they're going to do this summer, funded by the Stowe Foundation. Hopefully there'll be some test curriculum that will be tested at a school like Callahan Middle School in the fall. But again, there's going to be a lot of work this summer in conjunction with the Citizens Water Academy on those materials, and that will be a multi-year project. So imagine, this summer, a lot of work doing on research of what kind of curriculum's out there, maybe some development of some materials and curriculum in out years, real development of curriculum and work with the Citizens Water Academy, starting with students, but also how do we expand and perfect the Citizens Water Academy things. And so that's really exciting. I think the next phase of that, and part of that, is engaging some students at Drake and other universities to participate in developing actual materials. Think things like YouTube videos and those types of things I don't understand how to produce or even what they are. And those will come out as well. So those are all very exciting things. And as I said, if I repeat myself at meeting, forgive me, but because things are happening, I want to make sure this board's aware of those. So that's all very good. And I'll just say, I don't have much to say about the Botanical Garden, except that they continue to do great things over there. Go visit.
Jumping over to the Des Moines Waterworks Park Foundation. It was a very exciting weekend. I truly appreciate my partner on this committee being out there. Pat was out there at, I believe, 7:30 a.m. Getting ready to hand out glass eggs to people who showed up at the egg extravaganza. And by the time I was ready to start my shift, they were all gone. And my shift started at 10. So it continues to be a very popular event, well attended, and a great opportunity to engage with hundreds of community members probably from across the metro.
I'll say on those lines that in return for a donation I made to the Park Foundation, I purchased some of the glass eggs to take as cultural gifts last week to Bosnia and Herzegovina. And I got stopped twice going through Istanbul security at the airport. And I think the one security agent liked the egg so much he wanted to keep one. But they were actually a great thing to give, because I could tell the story of the park and why they were important.
Right.
So
They were very cool. Gwen and I hid eggs on Friday night. We hid 200. No, we only hit 100. And when I actually showed up at the park around 9 and we couldn't find any of the eggs that we had, and she was very upset.
Oh, no.
So, but it all worked out. But anyway, good things happening at the park as well. You can see in the packet that that there's a lineup already well into the summer, hitting just about every month here on out with various events and festivals and concerts. We touched on, I'll just bring up financials because it is always a thing we are want to talk about, that getting ready for events, the financials always look a little bit discouraging, but understanding that most of the funding is made, or most of the dollars are coming in, at the end of the year, at the fall, after all of these events take place, and we're seeing some return for that investment. So I think that the foundation feels really good going into this programming season, and some of the partnerships and sponsorships and relationships that they've been developing along the way. I don't know if Pat is still on the line, if he has anything additional to add.
I don't have anything additional to add. The egg hunt was quite fun. Kind of cold.
That was cool.
And Mike, if you have anything you would like to share.
You highlighted the event schedule, something like that.
Yes. Great. So moving on to our CEO and general manager's comments.
Andrea, I want to highlight progress on our strategic initiatives for the year thus far. The water tower graphic is there, which is kind of just a really quick overview that shows that we were able to launch any of the initiatives in the first quarter. Not all of them, of course, and some of them were not necessarily intended to launch in the first quarter, but we are making some progress. There's information about how we're tracking on our safety training attendance, both for new employees and ongoing safety training on a monthly basis. We're at this point, we're about on track with that in terms of ensuring that people get the training that they're scheduled to get, and that new employees get the training that they're scheduled to get. Employee retention, we had a number of initiatives identified there that we hoped would help with retention, culture, those kind of things. Our turnover ratio for the first quarter was 10%, which is was 3%, which is less than which is good. It's better than the 10% target we had. But I'm confident there will be work to do to maintain that ratio at something below 10% as we move through the year. The rate structure and affordability study that we're working on, we have gotten a proposal from Raftellus to provide that service for us. And so that process is moving forward on track. Lead service lines is another initiative under customer focus, and there's been a lot of work. You saw some of it today, but there have been no lead service lines replaced to date. And that initiative is the KPI is based on actually replacing lead service lines. So even though we've had a number of meetings with the city and contractors, and engineering has done a lot of work, and distribution has done some things to get us prepared to start, we haven't actually replaced it yet. Regional governance is our leadership initiative. I think we all know kind of where we're at from a regional governance perspective. The KPI there is getting people to sign up and getting them to assign their board members. We talked about meeting with a number of the communities, and those have started, and so we are making some progress there. From a stewardship perspective, we are trying to ensure that we reinvest appropriately in our infrastructure. In the first quarter, we made good progress there, but I will point out that there's a lot of low hanging fruit every year in the first quarter. And so we've made great progress, but it will be work to keep those bars moving across. And trying to get to the 90% mark on both. Our water main replacement capital and the rest of our capital. Climate action planning is something that was planned for later in the year, so we haven't started that. And then lastly, related to diversity, equity, and inclusion, a couple of things. We've also done a lot of work with our diversity plan. We've got Claudia Schabel on board. She's already starting to help us. She has helped us identify a task force and invite them to participate. Our internal task force has been identified, and they will be convening some meetings with our consultants to begin the process of implementing some of the recommendations from our Keene report. And then the bottled water study, we're kind of on hold right there on the bottled water study. Our KPI there is related to implementing some of the interventions that they will recommend as ways to help kind of curb the declining trust in tap water. But we're waiting to see if they get their phase 2 grant. If they do, we're going to do a lot of things. We're going to have a lot of opportunity, including buying some equipment, things like that. If they don't get the grant, then we're going to take a step back and they're going to help us identify some interventions that we might be able to do without that sort of influx of cash from their grant. So we're waiting to see. We have a meeting with them on Friday. We remain hopeful that they will get their phase 2 grant and that project will continue. So
Have we seen their recommendations that would be being funded with that phase 2 grant?
they put some things into the phase 2 grant application that included one of the really cool things was a mobile water station, a trailer that we could take to various events, and it would be set up for people to dispense tap water right out of it, all branded. And it would be a really neat thing for us that we use to do education and outreach.
Okay, I do remember that.
Yeah, so yeah, we've seen some of what they put in there, but some of it will be informed by the ongoing analysis that they do in the focus groups that they're planning to hold and help us understand what we can do to influence the trust of tap water and people's perspective on the safety of tap water. So more to come there. We're really hopeful that they get that grant, phase 2 grant, but if they don't, there's still things that we can do based on their phase 1 research.
My other question is with the climate action planning, do anybody from Des Moines Waterworks participate in Des Moines climate action planning committee or the Midwest climate action planning?
The city of Des Moines had a adapt DSM plan that they went through, and I was on one of the committees for that. That was some total of our.
Okay, because I think they have an active committee right now where they're actively putting together some more information, some more strategies, but I don't know if that necessarily relates to anything that we would be able to participate in or would be meaningful for us to participate in. But,
It may.
Sorry.
Well, the last thing I would just direct the board's attention to the safety update that's in the board packet. It's kind of a focus on distribution department. And some of the training that we've been doing in that department. In an attempt to bring their newer folks up to speed. Based on some of the concerns we heard today, actually. There's a couple of charts there that show 2 of the trainings that we did on overhead and underground utilities, another one on excavation safety. You will note that out of the group of people who were assigned, in both cases, not every single person was able to attend, even though there were 2 sessions of the utility training and multiple sessions of the excavation training. But the key here, I think the important thing is that we know who didn't attend, and we can address that, provide them what you would call it, not refresher, but sort of introductory training to make sure that the awareness training, I guess is what I would call it, to make sure that they understand and are not going to put themselves in harm's way, and then we can make sure that the next time we do offer the training that they go through the whole thing. So that's a great tool, even though it shows that not every single person attended. It's a tool that we can use to, and it's a tool that we didn't have, frankly, 3 months ago or 4 months ago. We were pretty good at tracking who went to training, but we were less successful at knowing exactly who wasn't there. So this is something that has been an improvement since Rick Islander was here. So
Appreciate you continuing to include this as part of the agenda and information to share with us. And staff taking the time to put it together. Last thing on the agenda is the contract status and professional services agreement. If there are no additional comments or questions, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Thank you.